All right, we're back for the top 4. Will Kruger joining me for the rest of the day. We have a bracket. Either it's updated or it's not, but either way, let's take a look. See where we are. You can see there Stephen Dykman, who we just watched, Monastery Prowess. We're going to watch again versus Will Kowalczyk for playing Amulet Titan. And then the other side, Sam Boilu, Team of Rhinos versus Travis Dahl with Is It Murktide. I may have messed up several of those names. I asked for confirmation how to pronounce them and was given no help whatsoever. Sometimes there's nothing you can do. Anyway, Steven versus Will is what we're going to watch. The players are waiting for us. So let's go ahead and go down to the table and get this top 4 rolling.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Joe, we just watched Stephen Dykman win a marathon affair there against 4-color control in the quarterfinals. Well, Will's opponent actually just conceded and left. So,
Yep.
if I was in Will's seat, I would be feeling much more energized. Do you think, or I guess, to what extent do you think that matters?
I think it absolutely matters. I want to point out real quick here, the seeds are incorrect. Will, it was the number 2 seed, I believe, which is why you see him on the play here. But yeah, I think it matters. I can remember one event, an SCG years ago where it was 9 rounds of Swiss, and I went all the way to the finals, and my opponent was able to take an intentional draw in round 9, and I was not. So they had an hour off, and I can't say whether it affected them or not, what the difference was, but for myself, I know I was wiped at the end.
I'm sure. I mean, Magic is a strenuous game, man. I mean,
yeah, and that was a camera match, and I made a couple mistakes that I may have made otherwise, but who knows, maybe not. But you certainly your play degrades. So Will having a round off to maybe get dinner or just relax, I think it matters, definitely.
Yeah, so we have a pretty reasonable start here for Will. When he played the Saga and tapped it, I'm sure Steven was like, "Oh no, not turn 1 Amulet." But thankfully, it was one of his Relic of Progenitus, which is it is okay against the mono red deck, but not phenomenal. Unfortunately for Dykman, it looks like he has 1 land, which is not exactly what you want. And it looks like Will has picked up another Amulet in the meantime. And this Karoo is going to make 4 mana here. If you're not familiar with how Amulet of Vigor works with these Simic Growth Chamber style lands, what you can do is you can float mana in between the untapped triggers. So with 2 Amulets in play, the Simic Growth Chamber makes 4 mana and returns itself to its owner's hand. Will had a mana floating already from the Saga, and then the Vesuva taps for another one for 6. The Grazer puts a land back in. It's a Simic Growth Chamber, and that gives him just enough mana. And there we go. Lightning fast. Turn 3, Primeval Titan. Dykman has 1 land. Doesn't need to see it anymore. I respect that. On to game 2. Let's go.
Yeah. So I mean, we saw the difference there where game 2 of the last round, Dykman was in a poor position, battled it out for probably 15 minutes. Here, a poor position, but it's not quite the same. And it's just, there's no point. Yeah. Done in 4 seconds. Like, okay, I'm dead. You saw Dykman get up from the table. Maybe he needs to walk around the room for a minute, just recompose himself after getting absolutely crushed.
Yeah, that game was not close, nor was it close to close. No. But now, if you're Dykman, what I'm looking for is I'm seeing, did I register Blood Moon in my deck today? And it looks like he did not. He registered 2 copies of Alpine Moon. Still probably coming in against the Amulet strategy. You can maybe shut down a Simic Growth Chamber. Maybe you can shut down the Haste land. Depends on the situation. But Blood Moon is just such an impactful card, and Dykman has registered 0 copies. And a very important factor here is that Will gets to know this. There's an open deck list portion of the tournament once you get to the elimination rounds, and so Will gets to see Dykman's deck list, and he doesn't have to bother with Foundation Breaker or Force of Vigor or anything like that, because he knows that Dykman doesn't have any Blood Moons, and Alpine Moon, you can very frequently just work around it, and you don't need to board in your Disenchants just for an Alpine Moon.
Right.
Blood Moon, though, you cannot function around an Amulet very rarely, so you have to board in answers to it if you know they've got it.
Yeah, there are Torpor Orbs, which are great for stopping Primeval Titan uncast, but doesn't do everything, because Primeval Titan's attack trigger will still go off, and killing a Primeval Titan, even if it doesn't trigger when it comes to play, it's not a real easy thing for Dykman's deck to do, even though it is possible.
Yeah, Orb is okay. I mean, Unholy Heat plus Orb does mean that if Will put this Titan, he will get no value out of it. Just trade it for the Heat. But it's the same issue that we sort of experienced last round, where when you draw it, you have to invest 2 mana. You're not advancing your own game plan. So what you're doing is you're taking a turn off to make them take a turn off, basically, because they have to delay themselves to attack.
Yeah.
But that's exactly what Amulet wants, because they want to go till turn 5 or 6. It's a lot of similarities with the 4-color control deck, where in this matchup, their late game is vastly superior, and so they want every turn that goes by without them taking 5, 6, 10 damage off of Monastery Swiftspear and Soulscar mages is really, really good for them. And so if Dykman invests 2 mana in a Torpor Orb, it's going to be a pretty positive exchange for Will, generally speaking.
Okay, so
I would prefer to not have Torpor Orb in this red deck at all, I think, but if I was Dykman, I definitely would not bring it in against Amulet. I would just try to be as linear and fast as possible. That's your biggest strength in the matchup. And Torpor Orb is not the kind of Haymaker level as Blood Moon, where they just can't cast spells for the rest of the game and they'll die to anything you can possibly throw at them.
Okay. For Will, let's go ahead and take a look at Will's, not Will, my co-host right now, but Will Kowalczyk, the Amulet Titan player who we just saw trounce Dykman in game 1. You don't really need much of a sideboard when you can win on turn 3 and your opponent gets stuck.
No, yeah, when it works out like that,
happen every time.
Just free.
Yeah, that's not going to happen every time.
Real estate.
So let's see here. Okay, some copies of Endurance, which are nice blockers, does disrupt the help me out here. The name of the enchantment, I forgot it all of a sudden.
Alpine Moon?
No, but
Underworld Breach.
Underworld Breach, yes, indeed. Dismembers at the cost of life to kill a creature. Is that worthwhile? I would guess not, but you tell me.
So if I was playing against like a burn strategy with like Goblin Guide and that kind of stuff where they're just interested in damage, then generally speaking, Dismember is pretty awful. But against Prowess, when they're relying on untapping with their creatures to deal you large chunks, then Dismember is pretty reasonable. I have not played against this iteration of Prowess enough to know, but I would not be appalled to see Dismember brought in like I would be if he was playing against Burn with Goblin Guide. Don't let Goblin Guide hit you. Just simply pay 4 life and let it hit you twice and use a card to do it. But yeah, it's pretty reasonable to try to tag the Prowess creatures because they can do so much, and Ragavan is not a bad target either. Although the 4 life is definitely not nothing. I mean, that is a big cost.
Right. Certainly easier to just draw a Arboreal Grazer, but you can't guarantee that's going to happen.
Yeah, you should definitely, if you're Will, you want to open on Arboreal Grazer, you want to open on Amulet, and then you want to have a turn 3 or 4 Primeval Titan with a little bit of defense using blocking, maybe with Arboreal Grazer, or maybe you board in Endurance. Endurance is much less good here since Underworld Breach is probably getting boarded out if I'm Dykman because I just want to be as fast and linear as possible. And if I was in Will's seat, I would be expecting Dykman to board out the breaches. And I don't think you want to play that kind of like nickel and dime me. Aha! I played a 3/4 and it was worth 2 cards game. It's like, no, I want to play Primeval Titan and I want you to die immediately.
Okay, the players are presenting. Let's go ahead and shift back towards the table and see how this works out.
Will took a lightning fast game 1.
We do have the seating corrected, as you can see there. Will number 2 overall, Steven number 3. So the winner, I'm sure, hoping that Sam loses, as Sam Boylou on the other side of the bracket was the number 1 seed. And both players keeping Dykman off to the races. Now, this has not been a trend in his games to have anything to do on turn 1, but we'll see.
Yeah, but I mean, on the play with presumably a 1-mana creature here, I'd be a little surprised if we were just firing off a main phase Lava Dart face. I assume that Ragavan or one Prowess creature or Dragon Rage Channeler is going to come down or something, and we can see the true explosive potential of the red deck potentially this game.
Okay. And it's Dragon Rage Channeler. Okay. Totally respectable start.
Yeah, not Ragavan, the ideal turn 1 play in this matchup, but Dragon Rage is probably good for a good amount of damage. And oh god, Will with the turn 1 Arboreal Grazer, which is just exactly what he wants. And there's just no fear of Blood Moon here, so Will's probably feeling like he's in a great spot. Lightning Bolt can trade for the Grazer, but you really don't want to do that. I mean, it ramped for 1 mana and traded for a card and a mana out of your opponent. I mean, that's just perfect. And if it gets to block, I mean, that's just all the better.
Yeah, so second fetch for Dykman. I mean, I suppose, no matter what you do, this Grazer's blocking 3 damage, and you don't want it to be potentially block more than 3 by allowing it to block over multiple turns. So maybe you do have to bolt it, or you could, if you have 2 burn spells, you could attack, let it block, and then go to the face twice, and then kill it with the. No, I'm sorry, it's a
it's not a Soulscar Mage or anything.
Take that back.
Yeah. You'd have to be able to demise into Delirium there off the Surveils.
Yeah, and that seems like tough to do, although not impossible. If there was something like Lightning Bolt and Light Up the Stage, that would be more reasonable to be able to get flying this turn.
Yeah, then we would have instant sorcery land and 2 Surveils to look for an artifact or creature. Or we could Light Up the Stage into Bauble to achieve Delirium that way. So we'd have definitely outs if we were to go for that play. I think Dykman does have an Alpine Moon in hand, so we can play that. We can name Selesnya Sanctuary, and then it'll only tap for 1 mana. So that's not a bad play at all, and it looks like we're going to do that as a follow-up to a Swiftspear if I had to guess, although we might just want to bolt this Grazer for some more damage, but denying the mana is pretty valuable because it means that Will wouldn't be able to play like a Dryad of the Elysian Grove this turn, or perhaps an Azusa Lost But Seeking. The 3 is definitely a critical juncture for the Amulet deck because that's where their main ramp creatures are.
All right, well, Steven with decisions to make here. And it's going to be Alpine Moon.
Okay, so he goes for the Alpine Moon. He gets a Prowess trigger. He gets a Surveil. He puts a creature in the graveyard, which is good because that's a kind of a harder type to get when they're not lightning bolting and terminating your stuff. I assume we're just going to go ahead and block the Swiftspear since it's worth 2 damage. But we're going to go ahead and give it a good look here and make sure. Can we confirm that named Selesnya Sanctuary? I assume it did, but.
Yeah, I will await that moment, but I expect we will. We can raid you over to the spotter and find out. 1 damage comes across.
Yep, Will goes down to 19, which is a pretty high life total, honestly, for being on the draw against a double 1-drop start. You can't be too upset being at 19, although Dykman is ready with a bolt next turn to clear the blocker. That is Arboreal Grazer.
Okay, so
It did name Selesnya Sanctuary, so Will with access to a green mana and a mana of any color this turn. Not quite the 3 that he was hoping for, but still not bad. And an Amulet, the marquee card of the deck.
And it passed, though.
Yeah, nothing else. Nothing else, but I wouldn't really expect him to be able to do much off of just 2 mana. So, like, if you tap the Sanctuary for the Amulet, played a Karoo, made 2, that's not going to really get you anywhere except for maybe Explore as a cycle. Yeah, if Will has any Karoos in hand, which you can usually assume they do have a Karoo in hand when they play one out, because good Amulet players will generally hold Karoos, so that way they can either top deck Amulet or play an Amulet out of their hand, and then use it as a pseudo ritual.
Right. All right. So Lightning Bolt here, and then Surveil trigger. Dykman looking for sorcery or an artifact, or I suppose an enchantment if the breach or it stayed in, or an extra Alpine Moon.
Yeah, that
keeps the card though. Keeps the card.
Yep.
It looks like 2 more mountains in hand. That's bad news.
Yeah, the red deck does not want to draw 4 lands by turn 3. That is definitely not ideal.
Okay.
And light up the stage, so we can now see why we did not target the Grazer. And so there's a card that we knew was there, a Breach. So we're planning on playing the Breach next turn. The Dragon Rage we did not know about, but we have land 3, so we can play it. We have Sorcerer Creature land, and that is Sorcerer Creature land and an instant, so that's 4 types. And so the Dragon Rage Channeler does have 3 power. The Swiftspear has 3 power as well because Dykman casts 2 spells this turn. So if Grazer's gonna block, it is going to die.
We have something from Will here. Now this is tap for there's Dismember.
Okay, so he did bring in the Dismembers. Not looking great here, but not looking too bad either.
Is that the creature you would have targeted?
The Swiftspear. With the Breach coming next turn, I'm spooked. I can't tell if there's a Bauble in the graveyard because Dykman's graveyard is kind of off screen. I don't think there is.
I don't think there is either.
But I'd be a little spooked that Swiftspear is going to do a lot more damage.
However, Swiftspear, if it's recast, actually has haste, so that's costing that way too. Is that okay? That was an endurance.
So that way, Dragon Rage down to 1/1. So he did bring in endurance and he brought in Dismember.
Okay, that was pretty. I mean, that cost a lot of resources and some life points for Will, but that was a great turn.
Solid. Will's down to 3 cards in hand now, though. But I mean, if they're Karoo plus a Titan plus like another land, we are very close. I mean, you can go way down on resources in this deck sometimes because Primeval Titan can recoup any resource disadvantage you're at. I mean, if you play Primeval Titan and it resolves, you are almost always going to be able to catch back up into the game.
So this Breach for Dykman is basically worthless at this point, although he could cast it anyway just for Surveil triggers.
Yeah, I assume we'll do that because we're losing it otherwise. And then it goes to the graveyard to add enchantments. Maybe next turn we can get up to Delirium to make both of these Dragon Rage Channelers 3/3 flyings. And we can also definitely see why Will dismembered the Monastery Swiftspear instead of the Dragon Rage Channeler as we're clearing the graveyard here with the endurance.
Okay, Dykman, give me some thought. I believe there's a mountain in hand plus whatever he drew for the turn. So not a ton to work with here. And this breach is, this breach is just a graveyard enabler at this point. It's not going to do anything else.
Yeah, there's if we drew like exactly Mishra's Bauble, we could surveil a bunch of stuff away, and then we could flash it back because the Dragon Rages sort of fuel the breach in that way. But whoa, another endurance! Wow, okay, that is pretty incredible. So we get to block one with a Grazer, take no damage, and eat another one with endurance. And yeah, we're gonna go ahead and shuffle our own graveyard in because Dykman has no graveyard, and yeah, this is
oh boy,
basically the dream for Will.
No damage. Dykman now only gets one surveil off the breach if he casts it, not two.
Yeah, perhaps we should have done that pre-combat if we're going to do it, but maybe we're just adding Giganta this turn. Ooh, are we?
Well, if he had done it, I agree. But if he had done it pre-combat, he'd still have no cards in the graveyard because the endurance grabbed. Everything that was there, so it actually didn't make a difference.
He would have the extra surveil though, so like if he wants to like bin, he would get to look at a few more cards. I think he might have a Light Up the Stage in hand, and his plan of it looks like he does. His plan was to spectacle it post-combat, but the endurance really blew that up. And we're gonna go ahead and use the breach just as surveil here instead of hard casting the Light Up. That is interesting. I think he has a Light Up, right? I feel like interesting. Okay, I thought that play might have been. Although
well, he can't cast the Light Up. Yeah, I mean,
he had three mana.
Yeah, you're saying instead of playing the breach. Yeah, okay, sure.
Yeah. Okay, there's a relic.
Well,
Will is down to just a couple cards in hand, and so that is definitely good for Dykman. That Will is not particularly close to Primeval Titaning, at least this turn or next turn. But
yeah, Endurance is an impressive card. It continues like in so many different matchups. Just the fact that it's a flash 3/4 consistently matters. And then
I mean, that was
on top of
the perfect spot for it.
Yeah, blowing up graveyards left and right, or reshuffling in the goods from your own deck, as we saw there. Both valuable.
I don't think that's going to be relevant, but
yeah, not this time, but certainly plenty of times it is.
Yeah, I've boarded in Endurance as Rhinos against Blue Eye Control because I expect to cast all my Rhinos and then I want to cast them again. All right, Bolt to clear the Grazer. Maybe we can get in a point or two and enable Spectacle, and then we can Light Up, and maybe we can go somewhere from there.
Yeah,
this is kind of the game I was talking about, though. I mean, we had basically the best case scenario for Endurance and Dismember, and Dykman is still in the game because Will has not been able to enact his own game plan. I mean, the Sanctuary does nothing. He has one card in hand, although the Relic could top deck another one. When you're in this stage, I almost always just assume that my opponent's hand is a Primeval Titan, although it could just be a Karoo that he's holding with the Amulet in play. That would make sense. Because he did play out the Sanctuary, presumably already having the Amulet in hand, although he might have top decked it on turn 2.
Okay.
The players are deliberating over something. I don't know what.
Maybe the life totals are wrong. I can't. I mean, the only thing I think of is that Dykman announced Lightning Bolt and then surveilled without choosing a target. That seems very unlikely. So it has to be the life totals. And the bolt went upstairs. Follow up is the light up the stage, right? Surveil again. So.
Yep, so we have creature, enchantment, instant, and then light up the stage of sorcery. So DRC's up to 3/3.
Oh.
But the Endurance can block it next turn, so Dykman's gonna need some kind of answer for that. And there's a Shattering Spree. Interesting. Okay. Kind of surprised to see that brought in, but it's not looking too bad here, I guess.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, this relic is still cantrip.
Yeah, one would assume that we're going to crack the relic in response here. Shrink the DRC back down to 1/1, so we don't have to swing into the Endurance next turn. So I suppose that's good. Maybe is it possible we wanted to attack first to... We'll probably just pops the relic anyway, but...
Yeah, although in that case, that would save Steven a mana. I don't think that matters, but it could.
Yeah, he could like hypothetically draw something like that Unholy Heat off the Bauble, maybe. We did bin the Unholy Heat, though. So Will's got 2 cards. Bounce land, Karoo. Yeah, I mean, he's not super close to Titan.
Right. No attack there for Dykman as that Grazer is still standing.
Really, he's just got a 1/1 in play. And every turn that goes by is quite good for Will, so. 3 mana. Okay. I have no idea what that card is. Do you know?
It's a Dryad Elysian Grove.
Dryad of the Elysian Grove.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Okay, so Boros Garrison is going to bounce Bosechu and then lead to a Valakut.
Okay, and I believe Will has one card. It's just the Boseiju. And if he top decks Titan, he can play it by using the Boseiju as a land.
Mm-hmm.
So now we are just a Primeval Titan away from stabilizing. And by stabilizing, I mean actually turning ahead. We are pretty stabilized at this point. But
Right.
yeah, we'd be able to get Valakuts and start. We already have a Valakut. So we can maybe get Vesuva and copy it, and we can start lightning bolting everything Dykman plays, and then eventually him. Probably just him immediately. Reckless Impulse. Okay, that's a good start for Dykman.
His graveyard is, yeah, so we may be able to achieve, okay, Bolt, all right.
Okay, Bolt's not bad. Sunbaked Canyon is bad, but it's a cycle land, so it will be worth a card. And these lands are really, really strong in these kinds of games where you end up with running out of cards. You have a little more mana than you need. You're able to sacrifice them and get an extra look at maybe a spell.
It also does allow rebuilding the graveyard quicker for Delirium because
True.
while the graveyard is currently in existence, Will does have a habit of reducing that with Endurance from time or Relic from
Yeah.
time to time, as we've seen in this game. So Bauble Surveil again with the Lightning Bolt still in the exile zone, waiting.
I am somewhat concerned that when Dykman does get Delirium, Will's just not going to attack with the Endurance, and then we're going to get to eat it, which is pretty bad.
Yeah,
but if
well,
Dykman
Dykman can't really do much about that.
He needs to find it on Unholy Heat at some point.
Yeah, and if Will, I mean, Will at this point, Primeval Titan or a Pact is obviously terrible. It's a Titan. Any land is a Lightning Bolt for Will, as it would give him Valakut shots.
He only has. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, it's one Lightning Bolt, and then all future lands are.
Yeah.
And a Karoo in particular would be Lightning Bolts forever.
Yeah, it would.
So Will has a ton of live draws at this stage. Just any land, Titan, Pact. I mean, what's bad? Like another Dryad?
I suppose another Dryad. I mean, even a Grazer is just another redundant blocker that buys a turn.
Yeah, Grazer's not great, but I mean, Amulet is a really bad draw at this stage.
Okay.
And I think that's pretty much it. I mean, every other card in Will's deck is just really devastating for Steven. Especially, Steven's at 12.
Mm-hmm.
A few Valakut triggers and an Endurance hit could be more than good enough.
Yeah, I mean, a Karoo here would be, let's see, I guess that would only drop Steven to 3, so Will wouldn't go for an all-out assault there.
So we need to play the Boseiju first. Okay, so we drew Slayer Stronghold, and we're Boseijuing as our last card in hand. That's one Lightning Bolt.
Mm-hmm.
And I assume that will go at the DRC, although we could go face and try to eat it, but eating the DRC now off the bolt and attacking is the same, but Dykman wouldn't get Surveils, so it's better to do it the way Will did it. And we even get to give our guy Vigilance and crunch for 7 here, put Dykman down to 5. Slayer Stronghold, actually just a really good draw.
Yeah, I don't know how many times I've seen that activate in a completely fair way like we just did.
Yeah, I'll just give my guy Vigilance.
Pretty rare.
Like, let's do +0.
Okay, Bolt in hand. Light up the stage. I mean, okay, Steven could still win.
Swiftspear. Shattering Spree. He's got a bolt in hand. He was really hoping to hit a third bolt there to punk Will out of this game, but a dead Shattering Spree. That's the problem with bringing situational cards like Shattering Spree. I'm surprised that he boarded Shattering Spree.
Okay, well, if Will draws a worthless card like Amulet and maybe nothing else, I guess at this point a Grazer would not do anything either.
We have to assume that the top of Will's deck is blank. Like if he draws a Karoo, a Titan, a Pact, any land, it's just a disaster. And so
I guess in Endurance, and Endurance is a blank for one turn because Steven's dead the next turn anyway.
One more turn. So okay, I mean, most of Will's deck gives him lethal here. That's a Vesuva. Copy the Valakut, 6 damage upstairs. That's game to Will Kowalczyk. Defeats Steven Dykman 2-0 and advances to the finals, where he's going to play against the winner of Temur Rhinos and Blue Red Murktide.
Okay, well, that one was certainly a much more competitive game than the first. Steven Dykman put up a fight, but does fall here in the top 4.
Yeah, good run by Steven Dykman for sure. Well played.
Kowalczyk. So, I don't know if where the other match is at. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and join the second match in progress. Sam Boilu versus, read my notes here, Travis Dahl. So let's go ahead and get down there. Okay.
All right, this looks like a messy board state, but we got a lot of stuff in play. We got some rhinos. We got a ledger shredder with no counters on it. There's a borrower, I think a petty theft on the stack.
Yeah, lots going on.
Travis Dahl looks like he's got plenty of cards.
And the
in
life
hand,
totals
though.
are not high.
No, both players low. Sambo Lu notably with 10 power in play, but Travis doesn't have a shabby offense himself with a Dragon Rage Channeler, a Ledger Shredder that's conniving here, and a Ragavan. Okay, I think the Petty Theft is in, or the Brazen Borrower is in the Adventure Zone, not on the stack.
I think that's correct. I think we saw Sam put it there before in a previous match as well. That's where he leaves it. So Ledger Shredder. Now I'm not sure even where exactly we are in, or even whose turn it is. But okay, Ledger Shredder with 2 counters on it, so that's enough to absorb a Rhino hit. Didn't it just had a 0 on it, right? I don't know how Shredder would get 2 counters at once, unless I guess both players could have played. I'm not sure. Yeah,
it looks like we're fixing that down
to
just the one that it has, and then we're gonna go ahead and resolve the Surveil and the Consider. Yeah, lots of tricky operations with Dragon Rage Channeler and Ledger Shredder. A lot. Sometimes you want to surveil, then you want to loot. Sometimes you want to loot, then you want to surveil. Mm-hmm. Normally, the rule of thumb is if you have no mana left, you want to loot, then surveil, so you have more information for the next turn. Or if you have a lot of mana left, then you want to surveil, then loot, so you can find something good to do right
now. All right. People asking in chat about deck lists. You can look on MTG Melee under the Nerd Rage organization, find the event, and well, okay. I guess we'll get
Travis
to that later.
Just won. Yeah. Okay.
Right.
Good job, Travis.
Yeah. So apparently that was just Travis looking to grow his creatures enough for having a lethal air attack. He did find it. Mm-hmm. And Sam Boilu's run comes to an end. All right. 8-1 through the Swiss. #1 seed overall falls here in the top 4. So